So I watched Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, and I saw a lot of negative reviews on this poor movie. So I decided to give it a shot. It's 2022. It came out in 2014. I remember when it came out. I remember watching one or two of those reviews. But before I get into my background and all that, and my experience with Kirk Cameron, because I did work at a Christian bookstore for a lot of years, so I'm familiar with his works. I'll just say some good things about the movie, just for the sake of being positive. No, there's some things I really liked. He gets bonus points for mentioning the New Jerusalem near the end. The way he tied that together was a little reaching. He was reaching, but it was good. The idea of the Christmas tree being the tree of life at the center of the city. I like that. You mentioned the New Jerusalem, it gets me excited, and that's the end goal. And he ties that. Well, he doesn't really tie it, but he ties it to the garden earlier. It would have been nice if he made that connection. And I'll talk more about the Christmas tree in a second here. I'm just saying the things I like. And the other thing he did when he was talking earlier about the Christmas tree was he talked about the temple, and that gets me excited too. Talked about, well, I believe the garden was the first temple. Adam was the first, Melchizedekian high priest. And, we have this tree of life. And the temple has all this, garden imagery in it. We got the menorah. He talks about the menorah being an almond tree. And he's like, look, there's lights on it. I'm like, all right, that's reaching. But okay, I'll give it to you. He did some research. And yeah, there's pomegranate trees that are the pillars inside the temple. There's a big golden vine. I don't remember him mentioning any of these things, but these are some of the things I know, because the temple is supposed to be a picture of the garden, and that's something we'll see return in the New Jerusalem along with the tree of life. So good job, Kirk Cameron. I like that. I like how you brought that forward. And I'll just say this now, just because I know everyone's thinking about it. It's something I used to believe is, all these the Sumerians and the Akkadians, all these hieroglyphs and these stone pictures and carvings of people worshiping, bowing before these evergreen type trees. And they're like, and there's the made up story too that everyone teaches that's actually totally false and wrong, and there's no backing for it, is the whole Nimrod and Semiramis and Tammuz kind of unholy trinity. And when you're worshiping, setting up a Christmas tree, you're worshiping Nimrod, and it's really his penis. It's a penis with balls on it. It's like, okay, and the wreath is a vagina. It's like, come on, people, really? And then you're setting up a Christmas tree in your house, and if you're calling it Baal or whatever, then you're doing something wrong. But if you're setting up a Christmas tree and you're saying that, okay, this is a picture of the tree of life, how do I get this resurrected life? How do I get my glorified body? Through relationship with Jesus? Then good. Okay. I'm still not going to celebrate Christmas, but if that's why you're setting it up, I'm going to allow it. Two things I didn't like that I just thought were made up and wrong. He said that frankincense and myrrh, he leaves the gold out of there, that the wise men brought to Jesus. It doesn't also mention that they would have showed up 2 years later. It wasn't at his birth, so they wouldn't even be at the nativity scene. That he said they were for burial. So he's trying to make this whole connection with the swaddling cloth being burial robes, and it's like all about, they knew about Jesus' death. And that sounds made up and reaching to me. My theory is also reaching, that these were priestly things. These are things that have been used at the temple, and he's already talking about the temple, so I don't know why he wouldn't have just gone there with it. So gold and frankincense and myrrh, these are things incenses you would burn at the temple, and obviously the original Psalms temple was all gold. And, the Ark of the Covenant was covered in gold. The menorah was casted out of one giant piece of gold. There was lots of gold. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the whole Santa Claus thing. He brought up St. Nicholas, of course. I think it's good history to learn about St. Nicholas. But he went to the whole Council of Nicaea idea and how this St. Nicholas beat up this Arius dude over an argument about the Trinity. It's like, really? You're going to beat up somebody because they don't believe Jesus was divine? It's the Trinity, and that's a whole other argument. He went there with it. Like he was trying to pick another fight outside Christmas to make St. Nicholas look good and just to defend Santa. Yeah, we don't really need this whole idea of Santa Claus in the Bible, and using that as a defense for St. Nicholas I just did not like, because I'm not a Trinitarian. So he pretty much told me I'm heretical and going to hell. So he's kind of dividing his audience there. And I don't care what you believe about the Trinity, because you believe in God, believe in Jesus. I think you're gonna see the New Jerusalem with me. All right. I don't think you have to fully understand the Trinity and how that all works. All right, because it can be confusing as you dive into it. And I could talk about how the Trinity has its pagan origins, but we'll skip over that. So I stopped doing Christmas around 2015. As the movie had just come out. So I remember jumping on the bandwagon. And then recently I've been doing a study about how it's not really Roman Saturnalia, how the Yule log and all that, and not the Gauls, but the Vikings and all their mythology isn't tied to it either. Saturnalia looks nothing like Christmas, and we have all these made-up reasons not to celebrate it because people want to be a bunch of Scrooges, I feel, and just rain on everybody's parade. And we should make it all about Jesus. And there was one other part I liked in the movie where the guy's like, he wasn't born in December 25th. Everybody knows that. The guy is essentially playing like a fringiatic messianic, this other guy, and he was arguing with Kirk Cameron's character, which I thought was funny because it's ahead of its time. It's these arguments are kind of ramping up in 2022. So I feel like Kirk Cameron, if the movie came out this year, but I think it would have received different response, because it did not do well, and some consider it the worst movie ever made, and it's just not true. There was some funny parts, even just not talking about Christmas. There's one exchange where a guy's being very conspiracy theory, like whispering over his hot chocolate mug to this other guy, and it's like freaking him out. It was just funny. It was entertaining. And there's just a lot of things that went over people's head because people don't study the temple. And there was a joke about exegesis, and most people don't know what exegesis is. So Kirk Cameron's a little dumb, but also a little smart, a little too smart at the same time to really sell this movie. But I would give it a shot if you're really bored. It's on Amazon Prime right now for free if you got that. Kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, I grew up Christian, worked at a Christian bookstore, watched all the Left Behind series, loved Kirk Cameron. A funny thing about Kirk Cameron is he's now a post-trib rapture and refuses to be a part of because I saw they're doing a new Left Behind. They're bringing it back. So I'm like, oh, why didn't they get Kirk Cameron? It could just be like an older Rayford Steele. They can make it work. So he refuses to be a part of it. I respect that, and I agree with post-tribulation theory more than I do with pre-trib, for sure. So I respect that. I don't know too much about Kirk Cameron besides those things I mentioned, so I don't know much about his theology. Apparently he hates the Trinity. Anyways, get done with my break here. That's all I really wanted to say about that. I celebrate Hanukkah, and on the story of Hanukkah, it says that the abomination of desolation of the temple by Antiochus IV happened on December 25th. And just tying this all back to the temple, wouldn't it be great if Jesus being born on December 25th, he's coming back to rededicate that temple. The Maccabees did it, but didn't last. They made a lot of mistakes too. And it's just showing us that no matter how righteous, no matter how strong Judah Maccabee was, we really needed this Messiah, this Mashiach figure, this high priest Melchizedek to come and restore the temple. And wouldn't it be great if he was born on December 25th? Because I've heard a lot of arguments recently that that's not a bad guess. A lot of people like to say he was born on Sukkot. When you do the research, that's not there either. No one really knows. So December 25th is as good as a guess as any others. You want to celebrate Christ's birth then. Everything that's connected with it, the tree of life, being your Christmas tree, go for it. Go for it, please. Stop hating on Kirk Cameron. Go watch the movie.